Just like in England, the third division of US football is called League One, which makes perfect sense. Although it's not the only third division league, there is also the NISA, but that's for another day. USL League One has some of the biggest contrasts I've ever seen between stadiums. Some are huge, and some are as small as could be. With that being said, here are the USL League One Stadiums. Starting off with CHI Memorial Stadium, home to the Chattanooga Red Wolves. A brand new soccer-specific stadium that is remarkably similar to another brand new soccer stadium, Segra Field in the USL Championship. Even the scenery is similar. It's actually the first ever soccer stadium in Tennessee built for a professional team. Other than that, there's not too much to say about it. It's a nice little stadium with no frills attached. Drive Pink Stadium, home to Fort Lauderdale CF. It is probably more well known as the temporary home to Inter Miami. And that makes sense because Fort Lauderdale are actually Inter Miami's reserve team. For a temporary home, it's not too shabby. Well, presumably Fort Lauderdale will be staying here after Miami's new stadium is built. It is in Fort Lauderdale after all. But still, for a permanent home, it's not too shabby. I particularly like the two main grandstands, which look fantastic. All those hits of bright pink are a nice touch as well. Breese Stevens Field, home to Forward Madison. A slightly unusual team name, but it's certainly better than Real Sporting Madison FC United CF. A bit of an unusual design to the stadium as well. The stands make up the shape of a hook. Speaking of the stands, one of them, the curvy one, is nearly 100 years old, having been part of the stadium from the get-go. If you're wondering why it is that shape, well, they used to host athletics and baseball here back in the day. In fact, the very first night baseball game in Wisconsin was held here. Legacy Early College Field, home to the Greenville Triumph. It really doesn't get too much simpler than this. It's just an artificial turf field, with temporary seating added. But it does the job, and it does it well. And in these lower leagues, you'll take that. Gillette Stadium, home to the New England Revolution reserve team. It's safe to say that this stadium is too big for New England Revolution, let alone their reserve team. But they're all owned by the same guy, so it's not like he has to pay himself rent. So why not use the world-class facilities? When I say world-class, I don't mean the field, which is artificial turf primarily designed for NFL. But hey, it's still a pretty cool place to play. Salem Stadium at WakeMed Soccer Park, home to North Carolina FC. This soccer park looks like a football fan's dream. 5 full-size pitches including a proper soccer-specific stadium, all of which are surrounded by forest, kinda like a golf course for football. And somewhere among those trees is a cross-country course. Okay, that's not particularly relevant, but just thought I'd let you know. The stadium has basically everything a club of North Carolina FC's size would need, other than plentiful covered seating, but that's just nitpicking. I like this one. Globe Life Park, home to North Texas SC, and formerly home to the Texas Rangers of the MLB. Unbelievably, they built a brand new stadium all the way over here, forming a stadium triangle of sorts. The stadium's lower tier seating recently underwent a remodeling to make it more football friendly, mainly for the Dallas Renegades of the XFL. And it's actually not too bad for soccer. I'd imagine some of the sightlines are a bit awkward, but I especially like those porches up there. They're pretty cool. City Stadium, home to the Richmond Kickers, who have been kicking about since 1993, which in the context of American soccer is actually a fairly long time. But their stadium is way older. Just like Breese Stevens Field, it opened in the 1920s, and it too has a rather peculiar design. Although it looks a little rough around the edges, I actually quite like this one. It's similar to a typical high school stadium on one side and an amphitheater on the other. Eagle Field at Irk Russell Park, home to the South Georgia Tormentor. It's located just across the way from what they call the prettiest little stadium in America. While it calls itself that, very arrogant, always has been. Eagle Field is yet another very rudimentary stadium in air quotes. It has just 500 or so seats, the rest of the capacity being standing room. They will be moving to a purpose-built stadium that is currently under construction later this year. And that one looks like it's going to be a great little stadium. Toronto FC's reserve team will be playing at various stadiums in the US because COVID is still a thing, unfortunately. Yeah, there's not really much to say about these ones, so moving on. Kino Sports Complex, home to FC Tucson. Situated amongst the sporting oasis in the scorching surrounds of Tucson, Arizona, is this modest but modern soccer stadium. I've said it before, but there is something so satisfying about perfectly lush green grass, and it is real grass, in an arid environment. I mean, just look at that. It goes from Gulf Fairway to Gobi Desert, just like that. Although I should say Sonoran Desert, because that's what it is. From the main grandstand you get a pretty decent view of the distant mountains, and a bit of protection from the sun, or less likely the rain. Verner Park, home to Union Omaha. We end with a baseball stadium. An excellent little stadium to be fair, but it is still a baseball stadium. The good thing about this place is the variety of seating. If, like most people, you want bucket seating, it's got you covered. If you're a little bit strange and want to sit on a hard bench, it's also got you covered. And if you're a nature lover and only want to sit on grass, then well, go right ahead. There is plenty of bermage. And there's even a fourth type of seating, whatever that is. And hey, let's make it 5. You can always sit on the floor. And what about the roof? You're not allowed up there, but who's going to stop you? Or how about you sit on the fence? You should sit on the fence if you want. Sorry folks, I descended into madness there. Those were the USL League One Stadiums. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, have a good one.